So literally around 30 minutes or so right after my friend ended up uploading this video of me and him testing out the Yu-Gi-Oh game that I'm about to make a video of, somebody ended up commenting on the thumbnail I made when I made a picture of me next to my friend and asked, Mr. Vid113, did you really dye your hair blue? Well, the answer is...
Nope, it was just a wig.
What is up, YouTube? It's Mr. Vibnathaniel113 here again today with another video, this time doing another review slash overview video slash update video, whatever may you call it, of a game that me and my friends recently discovered, known as Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, which is also considered to me and my friends the Automatic Simulator System, or ASS. That's not actually what it's called, don't assume that, but that's what me and my friends call it for hilarity. So yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro. What is Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro? Some of you probably haven't heard of it yet, and I'm pretty sure a good majority of people that are watching this are either eager to find out what it is, based on the title, or wondering why the hell I'm making a Yu-Gi-Oh! Based video. Now, I'm a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! I've been a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the day it came out in the US. Since I was younger, I enjoyed playing the game with friends, because it was just such a fun and competitive game for friends to play. In fact, much like the show, that's how me and my friends mostly solved most of our arguments, was from playing children's card games. And it was a fun way of doing it, so it didn't involve any fistfights. Even though that didn't stop me and my friends from doing that occasionally. But point taken, it was still a fun game. And I loved playing it. Now the only problem I had, especially when I was younger, is that not too many people I knew play it. Around the time when GX came out, it was around the time I started playing in leagues and tournaments like at Mall of America and around my local card shops. It was really fun. I always had this one wish, where I could play the game with anyone I want, at any time. I always wished that there was a way to do that, and when I was younger, I found one way of doing that. Around the time, there was a Yu-Gi-Oh! Online game, but it was a really complicated and complex thing that you had to install and you had to pay for. Plus, it was very weird because you weren't able to get all the cards from the library right away. So you started out with a really shitty deck. You'd be going up against someone who plays it constantly, but they'd have really better cards than you. And that was the one problem I didn't like, because everything in the game you had to pay for, even the cards. You won a couple duels, and you got a few cards. But if you lost, you didn't get shit. And I hated that. I disliked that system, and I'm pretty sure a good majority of you did too. So ever since then, I always wished that there was a way to do it. And there were, in various variations. The Kaiba Virtual Dueling Simulator being one of them. This one I never liked just for the fact that it was really hard to get into a game lobby with someone. The game was very buggy. Granted, most of them are fixed to today, but it still requires a heavy amount of Hamachi use unless you port forward. That was the problem me and my friends had. Then later would come the Dueling Network, the one thing that I loved when I saw it and hated afterwards. My biggest problem with the Dueling Network is at least the Kaiba Virtual Dueling Simulator had some customization to it. The Dueling Network had little to no customization to it, and the only way you could customize anything such as your icon or card sleeves, you had to go and win duels in the rated lobby. The main problem I had was much like the Kaiba Virtual Dueling Simulator, was that nothing was automatic. Everything was manual, and you couldn't leave a lobby because if you did, then you would lose points. And you have to earn those points in order to get more icons and card sleeves. And you might think, well, why does that matter? Well, when you want to stylize stuff, it kind of matters, because that shit should just be unlocked at the get-go. It gets you to really strategize and play more and get better. But it takes the fun factor out when you're in a lobby with someone and you try to play something that you know is valid, and then somebody stops you and says, "No! No, you can't, no! It's not valid, it's not okay, you can't do that!" And then someone calls the admin, you wait 40 minutes, and then the admin kicks the person who called him. Generally, that's how I always see it, because that's always how it happened. At least for me. There's been a couple times where I ended up getting kicked, but that was mainly my own fault. So, I didn't mind. But the times where it does happen is people who either love to win and will do anything to win, so they'll bitch at you to get you to leave, or they can't accept the fact that they are losing. So they'll call the admin in and have him sort everything out. It's tedious, it's boring, it's pathetic, it's lame, and I never liked that aspect. So I always wished that there was a Dueling Network, a newer version of the Dueling Network, or some version of it that was that, where you get all the cards from the library, but had a lot more customization and a tag dueling feature. So that way me and my friends, instead of dueling each other or dueling like random people, we could duel with each other against random people. And that's exactly what the YGOPro is. This new amazing simulator that came out a couple months back is, in my opinion, at least as of right now, a lot better than the Dueling network. It has its own bugs, but at the same time, this game is fairly new, so you kind of have to excuse it for that. I discovered YGOPro about a week ago or so, after a friend brought it to my attention after a Facebook post that his friend made about it. Basically saying to check it out because of just how much better it is in almost every way. And at first I didn't want to believe it, because there's so many different simulators out there, with Dueling Network being the top one right now. And for that reason, it's kind of hard to believe. But when we did play it, it was amazing. Everything is customizable. The game itself has menu music, deck editing music, music in the game, disadvantage music, and advantage music. And you can change it all too. And the best part about this customization, you can actually put your own cards in the game. Now granted, when you put your own cards in the game, you can't use them against other people. The only way you can use them is if you're dueling someone and that person happens to have the exact same version of the game that you do. Because the entire network is based around the card file. And the game, in my opinion, just looks a lot nicer and better. The layout is very similar to what Yu-Gi-Oh! Online is right now. That and Yu-Gi-Oh! Tag Force. Having the layout be like this is a match made in heaven for me. But besides that, I haven't really noticed anything bad about it. In fact, the game has a pretty good community up for it right now. The only problem I seem to have with the community of the YGOPro right now is that most of the people that seem to be playing it seem to either be living in the past or have absolutely no idea what they're doing. I mean by this, like, people are using really old decks or have no idea how to use the cards that they're using now. In fact, in the replay that me and my friend made on my friend's channel, I'll post a link to that in the description, the guy that we were dueling had a partner that was using a deck that was replicated from Yugi's. And I don't know about you guys, but Yugi's got a pretty weak deck. At least that's how I see it. Because if it's not from the anime, it's not that great. And we had a guy who was doing that. I dueled someone who was using a Joey deck. That, mind you, is completely based on luck. And of course, it being the anime, he's always going to be lucky. Well, most of the time. So that's my only real problem with the community, aside from the fact that most of the people that play don't speak English. I'm pretty sure there are people that do speak English, but I haven't encountered that many. In fact, most of the people I dueled were either Portuguese or Spanish. I couldn't understand half the stuff they were saying. Granted, we dueled with no problem, so it really doesn't matter. Well, I'm talking about the community and I'm talking about all this other stuff. Well, how does the deck manager work? Now, the deck editing system should just be pretty self-explanatory, as it is just like any other deck editing system from any past Yu-Gi-Oh game. You just select one of the two decks you start out with, clear them, and then search up any random card given. Reason for this? I'll explain later. One of the best parts about the search system, in my opinion, is the fact that you can either search up the cards by name or by serial code, meaning that if you wanted to, instead of having to search up a card by name, you could look at the bottom of a card, type in the serial code, and search up the card by the serial code. Besides that, you can also search up cards by category, type, level, rank, monster spell, band, TCG, OCG, etc. One really unique thing that this game has in comparison to any other Yu-Gi-Oh! Online-based game in terms of cards you can put in your deck are the anime cards. What I mean by the anime cards are cards that were in the anime or the manga that were never officially made into real cards. And they take requests for cards that were in the anime that were never made. Meaning that if you have a card in the anime that you really loved, but it was never made into an official card, they will take that card and they will put it in the game. So, take this for example. Say if you wanted like all three of the Seal of Orichalcos. So we have the first seal, but we don't have any other ones. Well, you can use all three seals. What if you wanted to use something like, I don't know, Fossil Fusion, or, you know, the Fortune Fairies, or Future Fairies, or whatever they're called? Well, you can take those cards, you can put them in your deck. Because they were never officially made, you can actually put them and use them in your deck. You can even use some of the masked heroes that were never officially made, but were put in the manga. And I love this aspect because there were certain cards that I loved in the anime that were never made into official cards, but now we have them, and that is awesome. Another really cool aspect I love about making your decks aren't stored within the game's coding. It's actually stored within a file in the game's folders called deck. You can actually take out your deck and actually send it over to a friend and have them use it. There's actually a thing in the forum section for Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro for people to actually go there and download other people's decks. So you can make a custom deck and have someone download it and use it, which I personally think is a really nice feature and really helps bring the community together because it allows people to come up with some really crazy ideas that not too many people would think of, and it would allow them to be able to use another strategy that either they use or someone else is using, which is pretty nice. I like it, and it helps people strategize a lot better in my opinion. That is also the one problem I have with the deck editing system. Because of this problem, you can't make your decks within the game. The only way you can actually make a deck, at least from my experience, is by copying pasta one deck, make it into a different deck, clear that deck, and then make another. In fact, you can't even rename your deck either. You have to manually rename it within the folder, which I personally think is a big problem. Another really cool feature that this game has is replays. Now, this might not seem like a big deal, but it is to me, because I love saving moments where a duel is really intense, and I just kind of want to watch it over and over again, because again, it helps you think, it helps you strategize, and the best part about the replays is that when you save them, you can actually swap fields. So, if you wanted to take it through your opponent's perspective, you can do that as well. In fact, you can even see your opponent's hand during the replay, what I think is awesome. I don't really have any negatives to the replays because there's not much to say. They're just replays. You capture a moment and you save it in your replays. And the other really cool feature is that much like the deck editing, the replays are stored in a separate folder, meaning you can take out a replay and share it with someone. So, if you wanted to take a replay or a favorite moment that you just didn't happen to record of something wacky that happened, you can save it in a replay and then upload it to the YGOPro website. And for the people that are living in the past, as I mentioned earlier, for this game or new people that are trying to get into Yu-Gi-Oh!, the game itself even has a single-player tutorial mode where you can actually go in, pick different deck files from the various law files they have, and solve the puzzles that are listed on the cards that are displayed in front of you. So you can actually strategize and think your way through whatever cards that are on the field or in your hand in order to play them, and it'll actually help you with learning different deck strategies. So say if you weren't good with elemental heroes, well, it'll help you learn different strategies to use them. Same thing with Dark Worlds or Light Swarms or anything above. My only gripe is that I wish that they had a one versus computer type of mode, just like how everyone else has been requesting it, so I really hope that they end up implementing that later on. The last thing I can probably bring up is actually creating a game or hosting a game in the lobby. Now, this wouldn't really be much of a big deal if it was just something standard. Dueling Network has its own standard thing, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has its own standard thing, the online version, the official version by Konami, and the Kaiba Corp Virtual Dueling Simulator has its own thing as well. This actually takes it a step further, and I really hope that they end up adding more than what they have right now. Now, when it comes to actually hosting the game, of course you have your obvious stuff like being able to set the game to single duel or match, being able to set the life point counter, and even being able to set the allowed cards like TCG or OCG. But then you have the really cool stuff like being able to set the forbidden list back a certain date or have it be completely disabled, allowing cards to be a TCG and OCG or just separate, but you also have the ability to allow anime cards, non-banned cards, and you even can set it to turbo dueling, meaning you can have speed spells on with the Speed World 2 spell, meaning that you get speed counters, and it's kind of like playing Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds. Of course, you also get the dual mode tag dueling, which allows you and a buddy to take on random people online. So, dawn the days of dueling your friend over the internet and having to bitch at each other for stupid shit, getting into fights. Now you and your friend can do that same thing, but to other people or vice versa. And you can even set how many cards you start out in your hand once per turn, and how many cards you draw per turn. So they have a lot of customization when it comes to actually setting up a game. I wish they had more stuff though, but for right now I can't really complain because this is pretty good. It's not bare bones. You actually have a pretty good amount of stuff that you can set. The only downside I really have with the tag dueling feature, you can't see your partner's hand. Here's the issue I see with that. Because if you're dueling with someone like, over Skype or Steam or something, where you're talking to them and you know the person, it's not going to be that big of an issue because you can ask them, hey, what cards did you got in your hand? And you could tell them, oh, well, I think we should do this, and I think we should do this. But if you're dueling with someone completely random, that you have no idea, you can't see their hand, you can't help them strategize. Granted, you can't do that either way, because the game has no voice chatting option or separate chat option. You're in the main chat, so not only can you not help your partner out, in a sense, but you can't strategize with each other. You can only really strategize if you and a friend that know each other happen to be with each other. So, you're gonna know what your partner's using until after they start playing a bunch of shit, then you're gonna know what your partner's using. I myself don't like that, so I really hope that they fix that. Because if they add a separate chat window and being able to see your partner's cards, that would be all good. I would love it if they could do that. But as of right now, it's fine enough. I can't really complain. I'm just saying, it's a minor gripe, but it's just something I have. So, what do I think of Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro as of right now that I just got done explaining everything that you can do in the game? I think that this game personally eats up every other competition around it. Now, that's just my opinion. I think all of you would probably be different, but for a solid Yu-Gi-Oh! Game that literally came out weeks ago and already is this good, with really big amounts of customization, a lot of online modes, key elements from the animes and the card games coming together, just so many things about it, the lobbies, the automatic system that that I've been waiting for with the Yu-Gi-Oh! Online game forever now. Everything about it just pleases me. This whole game is a dream come true, something I've been wanting for years. The tag feature already sets everything for my expectations. The only problems I have with the game right now is the lack of convenience when it comes to the Dueling Network, because the Dueling Network is a browser-based game, and this is a game you have to download, which can become a problem for some people, but it's not that big of a deal. It is a 300 megabyte game. I don't think it's going to be taking up that much compared to like your WoW or TF2 or whatever have you. But in comparison from this game and the Dueling Network, I personally think this game is better. The only real problem I didn't mention yet was the constant waiting that you have to do when you're in the middle of a game, which is where when you're playing a game and your opponent has like a bunch of cards down and you play something, you'll be stopped having to wait for your opponent to select whatever options they want from yes or no. If they want to change something or if they want to activate something, you have to wait for that. And it's tedious and that can be a little bit boring. But at least it's not as bad as waiting in a lobby for 40 minutes for an admin to come in and kick you or your opponent. So, in my honest opinion, I think that this game is better than the Dueling Network, but with a lack of convenience. But with more customization. That's how I view it. Besides that, Dueling Network's okay. I just find Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro to be better. And I would recommend you checking it out if you play Dueling Network. Tell me what you think. Give me your feedback. See the community. Check out everything you can for the game. Post a comment on this video. Tell me your experiences with Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro if you decide to try it. And then tell me what you think about it. Do you think the Dueling Network's better, or do you think Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro is better? And if you do decide to check out Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, I'll be seeing you on there. This has been Mr. Vibnathaniel 113, and I'm out, gang. Take care.